looking at video out of New Orleans, where we are looking at downtown damage here. Lots of flooding. We're getting reports of windows that have been blown out, just whole windows blown out. And again, you can see the street flooding there, and the winds are really whipping around. And no doubt we're going to get many more reports of damage as we see people getting those pictures back to us.
Yeah, and that again was standing water in the downtown area. And of course, we had reports of a levee break earlier this morning, up to 9 feet of water, 9 feet of water in some areas east of the city. So again, as we get more video in, as we're able to get back into the city, we will certainly be, I'm sure, looking at a worst case scenario there. And here's a look at Sky Tracker radar, and we're still looking at damaging winds pushing their way through east central Mississippi between Jackson and Meridian. Expect trees down, widespread power outages, and maybe even some minor structural damage.
You'll want to stay with us for continuing coverage of Hurricane Katrina. Coming up next, Carl Parker and Jennifer Lopez will have the very latest.
I'm ready to fight my cancer.
I'm ready.
I can't compare to the damage that's going on west of us, so we're fine here. Don't worry about us, but unfortunately, I'm a little worried about these people in the water behind me. That is a very bad idea, and I'm just going to say those people are not so intelligent, to say it nicely. But as you can see, that water is still looking nasty, as Jennifer mentioned, and thankfully, we have these dunes right here by our hotel, and they go up about 15 feet, and that's what's been protecting the hotel here. Where they haven't seen these dunes, they have seen the washover, and of course, the Gulf of Mexico, we're getting that southerly winds getting pushed up and over the seawall, and that has caused some flooding on the roadways and of course some erosion. There's going to be major erosion problems from Fort Walton Beach to points west of here, Gulf Shores, on into Pascagoula, and of course devastation as we head west of that area. Now, we wanted to let you know we just spoke to the sheriff. 98 is still closed between Fort Walton and Destin, and the Department of Transportation is going to check it out tomorrow, see if they can salvage that. They just finished repairs still from Ivan and Dennis here. And I also want to make it known that Pensacola, the airport, will be open tomorrow morning at 5 a.m. So Jennifer and Carl, looks like you'll be able to get out of Pensacola, but if you're trying to head west, you will not be able to fly in.
All right, thanks so much, Stephanie. Good to see that area fared well, because they have been known to get hit by hurricanes.
Well, we are watching the ongoing tornado threat. We want to take you through some of the warnings now. First of all, into North Georgia, we have a warning for Floyd County continuing. That expires at 6:15, just a few minutes from now. Morgan County expiring also at 6:15. Tornado warning for Russell County until 6:45. And then down into Alabama we go. Tornado warning for Barber County. We've also got Chattooga County, Macon County, and these cells are generally moving towards the north at about 40 miles per hour.
Hard to see these tornadoes because there's so much rain coming down, so not a time to get out there. In fact, let's get the latest. Let's bring in our severe weather expert, Dr. Greg Forbes.
And Dr. Greg, we often talk about these outer bands and the tornadoes and the lightning that these storms produce, but you don't see the lightning in the central part of the hurricane, usually. Why is that?
Well, usually that area has such widespread cloud around it and rain that it doesn't get unstable enough for the clouds to get vigorous enough to generate the lightning, but you sure do out on the edges. Look here around shortly after sunrise, lots of partly cloudy conditions. You'll see then during the afternoon, the heating of the afternoon, all these rain bands out here then pop up with a lot of deep clouds, deep thunderstorms, and lightning. The rain band, the inner rain band of the hurricane has lost its lightning. Now, we do have quite a few tornadoes that we're warning on. There's one storm that we've had an individual report. Our winter weather expert, Paul Cosin, has reported some rotation in the Buckhead area with this storm. It's coming very quickly now in the areas northwest of Atlanta, just west of Sandy Springs, heading just west of Roswell. Can't totally rule out a tornado with that storm either. And we will see that tornado threat spread as we get into the evening hours up into southeast Tennessee, and we continue to have it, especially now in the eastern half of this area. Tomorrow we'll have that threat spreading, continuing a bit farther toward the north and east. We still have a damaging wind threat, pretty strong winds. Tropical storm to hurricane force wind gusts coming up now all the way across eastern parts of Alabama, western parts of Mississippi, western parts of Alabama. Could be 75-mile-per-hour wind gusts up into the Tupelo area, and all across this blue area, 60-mile-per-hour gusts. That will topple some trees, power lines, lots of widespread power outages all across all of this area in blue up into tomorrow, up all the way to the Ohio Valley. Torrential rain as well. Inside this green area, 5 to 8 inches of rain, could be locally 12 inches. Most of the rain has already fallen down in southern Mississippi, up to about a foot. Heads its way toward the Louisville area on the Wednesday, gets up into even the Cleveland area. Now take a look here. This is how much rain it would take to generate flooding. and it was in the Gulf Coast states about 4 inches. But as we go farther to the north, it gets down less, 2 to 4 inches. So even as Katrina begins to accelerate and therefore gives a little bit less rain, it's going to take less rain up in that area. So we are going to see flooding all the way up to the Ohio Valley. Carl, Jennifer?
All right, Greg, thank you very much for that.
Well, just ahead, we will have more on what impacts Katrina will have in the days to come.
New Orleans escaped a direct hit, but still got pounded by Katrina. We have reports of roofs ripped off and windows blown out, and we'll have much more on this very nasty storm coming up in just a few minutes.
Katrina crushes the Gulf Coast and presses on. Our meteorologists are live with up-to-the-minute reports.
We're getting ripped here. It is still blowing hard.
Our weather experts and hurricane hunters tell you what's happening and why, plus what's next. We'll continue to track the storm so you know what to expect. See the latest travel delays, updated maps, and projected paths on weather.com. In-depth 24/7 coverage and analysis from the Weather Channel. Hurricane Central. The Weather Channel, Hurricane Central. Coming up, the latest on Katrina. But now, you're local on the 8s.
Category 5 hurricane is threatening. Many people go to shelters, many people evacuate, and some go down to the coast and ride it out for some reason or another.
We encourage you not to stand out here like these people are doing, because if something happens to you, you're out of luck. No one is going to get out there and risk their lives to try to save you. So obviously, again, this is not a smart idea to get out there and see how the wind feels when it pushes up against your body.
And that's exactly right. We heard about that last night. There was a point at which the officials in Mississippi, the emergency management, and also the police are saying, if something happens to you, you're on your own. We can't come out and help you.
That's right. An ambulance is not about to get out of that mess. They shouldn't.
Absolutely not. Well, thank you for keeping it tuned right here as we continue to track Katrina. Official landfall at 6:10 Central Time, and more than 11 hours later, Katrina is still powerful.
And that's right. We're still watching the system move up into Mississippi, but it's over in Alabama as well as over into Georgia, where we have the threat for isolated to scattered tornadoes. So be on the lookout for these as we go through the evening. The area is underneath a tornado watch.
And there's still a lot of very gusty winds around the center of that storm, and we do expect to see more of that in the days to come. Let's talk about the inland impacts here in Birmingham. We've got heavy rain and flooding, gusty winds, isolated tornadoes, power outages are possible. Same story here for those of you in Atlanta. We've had numerous tornado warnings tonight in North North Georgia. Periods of heavy rain, gusty winds, isolated tornadoes there, and then farther northward into Nashville tonight. Right into Tuesday, you've got the same story there. Gusty winds, tree damage, and some power outages as that center is going to move up right into Tennessee. Now, farther northward, even more impacts here in Cincinnati. Heavy rains, strong winds possible for you. We could see more of the same a bit farther north and east into the Cleveland area. That would be tomorrow night into Wednesday, and then more of the same here right on into Pittsburgh. We're talking about gusty winds and more very heavy rain. There are your thunderstorms across the Atlanta area. Scattered showers and storms here lifting northward. We've had some very heavy rain, and we have had a number of tornado warnings. Let's talk about your forecast for the next 7 days now. And we've got very heavy rain now lifting up into the Ohio Valley tomorrow and moving into the northeast. So it's going to be a big story in the days to come. It's not going to be over tomorrow, and it's not even going to be over on Wednesday. Fairly quiet through a lot of the west. Scattered storms here in the northern plains. That's going to roll a little farther eastward on Wednesday. Again, we have what's left of Katrina to deal with on Wednesday. Heavy rain, the Ohio Valley, interior parts of the northeast, and then finally things begin to settle down on Thursday. And then beyond Thursday, a fairly quiet scenario sets up across a lot of the country. When's the last time you can remember not seeing that much green across the map here? Very quiet for much of the country. Isolated storms here down into Florida, and we find more of the same into Saturday. Do keep in mind, however, that there are a couple of tropical waves that are way out in the central Atlantic in the pipeline, as we say, and they really do bear watching. We could be dealing with something more as we go on into next week. We'll watch that very closely.
Oh, I hope you're wrong about that. Well, keep it tuned right here. We'll be back with more on a look at the damage done by Hurricane Katrina.
And we leave you with a look at Gulf Shores flooding. Storm surge and flooding will be a problem for quite some time along the coast. We've got much more coming up. Please stay tuned. And welcome back to our continuing coverage of Hurricane Katrina. Still a very strong storm, still causing a lot of problems along the coast and farther inland.
And let's show you some video. Here we go of some of the damage already that was being done as the hurricane came through along the Gulf Coast. Again, it made landfall along the Louisiana Delta early this morning. Now the center of circulation is pushed up into Mississippi, and it's continuing to move at a quicker pace, up to around 18 miles an hour. But again, the threat for tornadoes here. Let's tell you about numerous tornado warnings in North Georgia. They go out for Pickens County, around Tate, around Big Canoe. Watch out, as well as over into Dawson County. Dawsonville, you're also underneath a tornado warning. Again, these are north of Atlanta, but Atlanta, the city, is seeing some pretty heavy rainfall.
Here's the bottom line. Katrina is still a hurricane, still a very dangerous storm. There will be major inland wind impacts, heavy rain, and tornadoes. We've got much more on Katrina coming up. Please stay tuned.
4 hurricanes, but fortunately, not too much damage across the area, right?
No, we haven't, but we've been talking to the people that have evacuated from Louisiana and Mississippi, and they are very concerned about their houses. And speaking of one of those evacuees, we do have a resident of Kenner, Louisiana, Kevin Mamahat. And what have you heard so far?
Well, what I've heard hasn't been really that great. I've heard that the first thing is that they will not allow us back into New Orleans until the earliest is Friday. Second thing I heard that the mayor of the city of Kenner, as well as the chief of police from the airport of New Orleans all the way to Lake Pontchartrain, has been in what we call a pirogue, as a boat, going up and down assessing the damage, which is 4 to 5 feet of water.
And what about friends and family? Do you have any back there, and have you heard from them?
I have a brother that lives actually in the French Quarter. I was able to text message him this morning up until probably about 9:30 or 10:30, and we've been unable to hear from him since. And, you know, naturally we're all worried and concerned. I have some friends that live in Slidell, and naturally the eye of the storm went through Slidell, and it's not good from what we hear.
Tell me what for you would be the worst case scenario.
Worst case scenario, wow. I mean, just going back home and finding total destruction. And naturally with 3 children, you're thinking, well, if the city of Kenner is down and everybody goes to high schools and junior highs, what's going to happen over the next, 6 months? Where do my kids go to school?
Yeah.
You know.
And you were talking about, tell our viewers how long it took for you to get here and how long you think it'll take you to get back, and when you think you'll be able to get back.
Well, Stephanie, what concerns me is it took me 12 hours to get from New Orleans, Kenner, to here, which is normally a 5-hour ride, because we vacation in Destin 4 or 5 times a year. And if the city officials say New Orleans is open, it's going to take well over 24 hours, because we had the city had 2 days of contraflow traffic to get here, and it took me 12 hours. if they just turn the green light on, it's gonna be a madhouse.
Now, I'm glad you did evacuate, but why did you decide to evacuate, but you had family members who decided to stay? How did that work out?
Well, you know, you can only do what's best for you and your immediate family. You know, some people, I guess, just are just a little bit different in their means, and you know, my brother doesn't have a whole heck of a lot of, you know, he's not married, so long story short, we said a lot of prayers together. He helped me board up my house, and hope he and his they're fine.
Does that upset you that he stayed? How do you feel about that?
It really does, Stephanie, because seeing what we've seen on the bits that the Weather Channel has provided us today, I mean, my family and friends, we're just majorly concerned with the wealth of not only my brother, but other friends and families that we've known stayed in the low-lying parishes.
All right, Kevin, we wish you the best of luck.
Well, I thank you so much.
All right, well, as you can see, people are concerned. They've been seeing the video, and Jennifer and Carl, there's really not much they can do until they get home.
All right, thanks so much, Stephanie. Again, a huge concern. Looks like it could be days until they find out, and even weeks without power over the area.
And you know, we go through all these numbers, we talk about the wind gusts, the tornado warnings and all that, but that's really the human toll right there. This thing has been awful for a lot of people, and it's not over yet. We still do have tornado warnings to tell you about. Tornado warnings here in Georgia, Henry County, and also in Pickens County. We have had some sighted tornadoes. These cells are generally moving north at about 30 miles an hour.
Yeah, they're coming with the outer bands right across southeastern Alabama and up into Georgia. And again, a serious situation because they're hard to see the tornadoes with so much rain coming down. So if your county is underneath the warning, you need to get into some safe shelter immediately.
Let's take a look at our storm on satellite now. And the storm making landfall in southern Louisiana, southeastern Louisiana at 6 o'clock this morning, made a second landfall at the Mississippi-Louisiana border at right around 10 a.m. Now the center of the storm is moving up 59 in Mississippi, where it's still very gusty. We're talking about areas that are east of Jackson, right around Meridian, Mississippi. It's going to get very gusty here in Tuscaloosa, probably is already, and into Starkville, Mississippi. A lot of very heavy rain falling as well. This is going to be a problem for days to come as the center of the storm lifts up into the Ohio Valley.
And we'll provide you with more Katrina coverage coming up. In fact, we're going to talk to our severe weather expert, Dr. Greg Ford.
He'll have the latest on flooding problems that will affect Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida for days. That's coming right up. Stay tuned.